You know, all right. I'm a little hesitant to do this one. I'm gonna just do it, and if I decide to delete it, then I'll delete it. But you know, um, I guess, I guess within the past month, I've had three elders, basically get upset behind my statement of saying that a man shouldn't get with a woman who makes more money than him. You know, and it just finally like just hit the straw. Like, the last guy, he's like, how dare him to tell me, like what they get off with that shit? How dare? Hey, like damn, like hey, like I'm offending them or something, and it's like, well, yeah, my girl, she makes more money than me, type shit, and I still can wear the pants in the household, and I'm like, well, okay, well, because she allows you to wear the pants in the household, she wants a man who, could be there, like, okay, well, yeah, you're there, you're masculine, and you're calling the shots, but financially, when it comes down to the bills and taking care of the maintenance in the household, and I don't mean by maintenance like the plumbing, and I'm talking about what keeps the fucking house going. When it comes down to that, she is the one that's making sure that the lights are on, or making sure that the roof is over your head, or making sure that you're able to have a car that's reliable to get you back and forth to work. Or the majority of the funds to make sure that that's happening is coming from her. Or even if it was something recreational. God forbid if you have kids, but I mean, what if it was just some recreational shit? Here it is, like, she has extra money to do extra things and you don't. And as a man, that should definitely make you feel some kind of way. Or if you had kids and you have your kids knowing, well, mommy makes more money than daddy. There's just a lot of scenarios. And I told this guy, I said, let me talk to your children. I guarantee you, if I talk to your children, they will look at you a little differently than how they look at mommy. Sure, you may be an enforcer, but when it comes down to getting what they want, either they're going to go directly to mommy or they're going to ask daddy to ask mommy. Especially if mommy makes more money, because mommy has an accessible amount of income to support the additional shit, the luxuries. So there's this security guard. He's an older guy. He's approaching 60. He's on his way out of retirement, but he works at one of the libraries that me and my buddy, the street buddy of mine, who we always have these videos where we're arguing, but we probably do for another argument. But I mentioned in another video how we would go to the library sometime and we go and talk to this old man, and he takes care of his mom. His mom is elderly, and a lot of his ways are definitely matriarchal. Now, my buddy and I, it's a little different. Like, he understands the patriarchal mindset. He kind of came up matriarchal as well, but he stays here in Ohio now, and his father is here, but his mom stays down south, and that's how he was raised. Back and forth between mom and dad. But he's definitely with his father, and I know his father knows his father real well. His father's definitely patriarchal man. Keeps the house up. He took care of his mom as well until his mom just passed away in his her 90s. But long story short, this security guard went back and told my homeboy some shit, because he went to the library and I wasn't there one day. Whenever I'm going, he's like, "Hey, what's up, Sam? How you doing?" And he always wants to argue about a lot of issues, which I've spoken about in a couple of the videos. But he wants to go back, and he says, "Yeah, that's why Sam can't really stay in a decent relationship now, is because he feels that if he's gonna get with a woman who makes less money than him, it's going to always be a ratchet woman. It's always going to be, one of those nasty women. It is never going to be a woman who makes more money than him that he's going to ever accept, and I'm like, and I thought about that for like maybe 10 seconds, and I'm like, you know what? Because, they come up with these funny ass stories, like my homeboy, the street hustler, he's like, well, he rather dates big girls, and he said that on a few of my videos before as well. He's like, well, I'd rather date big girls, big fat girls, because, at least they know that they're big and they have to keep themselves clean. Whereas a skinny girl, she feels like she doesn't have to keep herself clean because she looks good, So, and these are these dumbass oxymorons that I deal with. So, he's going to tell me, he's gonna, tell me that, this is what the old man says, about, your comments about, men shouldn't date women or, get into relationships with women who make more money than them. And, I asked him, the same questions as well before I even made that statement. It's weird because, we've had, months and months and months and months and months, years now of conversation. And even with him, single man. His wife has her own, not his wife, but his girl. He's been with this woman now for about maybe 2-3 years. Before that, he used to just date around here and there. But all the women that he was messing with were independent. They had kids and grandkids. Now, this security guard, mind you, he has 2 cars. He has, a nice Lexus now. He has a Cadillac. He has a Honda that he drives back and forth to work. He has nice things in his house. He doesn't get along with his siblings because, they do nigga shit, and he's the only one taking care of his mother, who's very elderly, But with him, it's like he couldn't get a woman that even at his age, throughout his late 40s and in his 50s, is his 50s now going into 60. The women that he deal with, they're highly strong, independent, self-conscious black women. And I don't see him pushing to get into no strong relationship. I don't see him rushing to put a ring on any of these women's finger. Now, this one girl who he's been with for the past couple of years, he's told me several things about her and how staunch of a woman she is, So, it's to the point, it's like, well, damn, why haven't I ever heard any stories about your girl coming over by your house to come and visit your mother, or, you having dinner over by your house with your mother and your woman there? Why is it always you going over by your woman's house? You see? And that's why they come up with that shit, because it's like, yeah, and a lot of women, they see it, it's like, how much shit do I have to put up with, with this man? Like, if I'm dealing with this man, like, I have to be willing to accept all of the extra baggage and all the extra bullshit that comes along with him. It's the same thing that single men have to do when it comes down to dating a woman who has kids and shit. And it's weird too, because a lot of women, that decision that's made right then and there, it's like, especially with black women, it's like it's a no-brainer with them. It's like, yeah, fuck it, it's all about love. It's all about love, And I'm getting that from even some of the youngsters as well. It's like, man, if you really love it, you shouldn't care. This is why there are divorces. This is why there are prenups. This is why. Like, why is it so, so manly for a divorce to take place and the wife comes along, here it is, the man has built his establishment, he's made all of this money, had a couple kids with her, she's a housewife, she isn't doing too much, and then she keeps everything. Why is that so manly? But if a man, he decides to just, pull off some old Mary J. Blige shit and get with a woman and, end up divorcing her, and then because she makes more money than you get everything, and then you got all these women. It's like, oh no, that's wrong. He needs to be a man. But it's all right for a woman to get half of everything for child support. Yes, because she carried the babies for 9 months and all of this other crazy shit. So, and it's not even about give back. It's about being a provider. You know, it has to do with how we are as men physically, how we think mentally as well. And, you know, the things that come along with it, like last names, you know. She carries your last name. And, of course, when the divorce takes place, she's most likely going to take half of everything. You know, a lot of these women now, I mean, when they get married, which is a little strange, too, when they get married, you know, they might get married twice. You know, they'll get married, they'll have a family. And I know this because my mom actually did this shit. You know, they get married, they have a family, and, you know, they keep the husband's name, the husband dies, and then they get remarried again. And then, you know, they hyphenate their name between, you know, the name that they had when they were married previously before, you know, they got remarried. You know, how does the new husband feel about that type of shit? You know, like, you know, the new husband's like, well, shit, you know, like, you want to hyphenate your shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, when people ask you what your last name is, you telling them your married name hyphen and my last name, you know, like that nigga gotta go, you know what I mean? It's the same thing with lions and shit, you know, like a lion, you know, if just say, you know, Mufasa dies, you know, in the real Lion Kingdom, you know, and you got all of the lioness walking around with a bunch of kids, and then here comes this new lion, he's gonna kill, like, if he wants to get with those girls and they say yes, those lions say yes, you know, we'll fuck with you. You know, here comes the male lion and his homeboys, the new crew, they're going to kill all of those cubs. You know what I'm saying? I think I'm getting a little off topic here, but, you know, I mean, it is important, you know, to have a financial dominance as a man. You know, I really do think it's important. And I don't think any man could tell me, like, black men, they just always talk about, you know, how it's all about love. It's all about love. The next thing you know, you hear, you know, the same arguments, you know, the next day, it's all of a sudden like, you know, the woman is complaining about something that has to do with the money. You know, about, you know, you don't have enough money to take and pay for this. You know, you need to take and work more overtime. You know, here it is. I'm working double shifts, and you always just want to work your regular job. You know, I want to take and do this, and, you know, I should be able to do this because I have the money to take and, you know, get this new, you know, piece of fucking towel to put in the kitchen, you know, and you want this, but I want the more expensive shit. You know, I've heard all types of stuff. You know, and it all has to do with the money. And then a lot of this shit is like, you know, it could be big arguments and it could be small arguments. But then you're going to tell me, how dare you to tell me that I should make more money than my woman. Hey. All right. So, hey, that's it. I just had to get that shit off of my chest real quick, man. Because I tell you what, as long as I can remember, you know, even in middle school, I used to think that if I ever got with a woman that made more money than me, you better believe I would be hustling. I would be working like 2-3 jobs, man, just to make sure that, you know, I was able to take and match her some kind of way. And I'm being honest with you. I have an aunt who, you know, she worked, well, not worked, she still does, but, you know, she works for a prestigious college in administrations, and her husband, you know, he was going to school to be a school teacher, and you know, he was like as an intern, as an assistant. This is as I was growing up. And then he was an assistant teacher, like an assistant coach, and he eventually became a teacher. But she made more money than him, and on the side, like, he did extra things as well. Like, he was a DJ. He, you know, did art. He did airbrush T-shirts for family reunions and silk screen. He painted on like Mardi Gras floats and stuff like that, you know. So, you know, he hustled to make sure, you know, that he was able to keep his end of the bargain. Because bad enough, like my aunt, man. Whew. Bad enough, boy. My aunt, man, she could be very, very strict. She can be, you know, I don't want to say mean, but, you know, she could be one of them type of people that could be very, very directive and strong, you know. So, you know, that's just looking at her as an aunt. So, as a husband, I would hear a lot of stories, man, about who were the parents in that household. And it just pushed my uncle even harder and further. So, by me saying all of this, I just know from a personal experience as well how these things happen and take place. And I feel like any man who has a problem with me saying that, like they need to go ahead and just dig deep down in their heart and soul, and ask themselves if they really have a personal problem with it themselves, because they are in that situation. Because you might be happy, but even the slightest bit of knowing that your woman makes more money than you makes you kind of like feel some kind of way. It's like, I don't see how any other man would think that, that shit is cool. It might be cool for a little while, but come on, man, for real, seriously, constantly being cool, come on. So, it's all right for your girl to do shit for you, and we're talking about deep relationships here. We're not talking about, just meeting a girl like today and then next week, she's you guys are talking and shit, and she find out she makes more money than you, and you're like, oh no, I don't want to fuck with you. It's like during that process, if you guys are still together, it should be one of your objectives is to make sure, hey, I got to get my shit together. And that should be the goal. But I'm gonna go ahead and leave this video alone because I'm kind of like distracted right now, looking at something else. And that'll be all. Sam, you be cool. Peace.